How you guys doing today? My name is Jessica Johnson from Western Michigan. I'd like to say thank you for coming by to Vibe Talks, where we're going to be talking about the fourth dimension and the four pillars of evolution and what that is all about. All of us want to understand what these dimensions are all about and what we have to look forward to as every one of us are starting to go into evolution as we speak, as well as throughout our ascension. So we're going to be talking about the fourth dimension, and many of us who are ascending to our understanding wonder what's next. It seems like a logical and honest question, right? Or one may be wondering, what does the density look like? As I continue with this lecture, many of you will walk away with a sense of understanding, and some may already know or have a a conscious sense in what the fourth dimension is all about. So, a quote from Annie Keegan, can give us like a beautiful glimpse and what we may get from this knowledge. She says that a shift in perspective makes the particles in your universe dance with new possibilities, and she couldn't have said it any better. As the light of the consciousness begins to awaken within, your belief system of the third dimensional reality seems like absurd, right? I mean, you may even become even angry or resentful of the society that implanted these belief systems. In the fourth dimension, in comparison to in with comparison and judgment, still does exist. However, with a more like spiritual theme. What do I mean by that? Yes, as we go along, you're going to basically explore that there is much more to this fourth dimension. But for now, let's just explore some tiny perspectives. You see, just like I had said before, for example, one may describe yourself as awake or woke while judging those who feel asleep. That's what I mean by people who basically that comparison and judgment is still in the fourth dimension, but with a spiritual aspect to it. So the attention had basically shifted from the pursuits of the material world into the pursuits of knowledge and understanding. And some of us may have experienced this concept of thinking within the fourth dimensional consciousness. For example, like, I'm angry because I have been lied to. I must warn and tell others about the Illuminati, the government, the reptilians, and the chemtrails, etc., on and on and on. Or they may say that the ego is my ultimate enemy, and therefore my goal is to get rid of it altogether. Some of that sounds familiar, right? So the fourth dimension is like the type of consciousness that is aware of the greater complexities in the higher unities. So the path to liberation requires of like letting go to self, which is a purely like third dimensional construct, and surrendering totally as well as unconditionally to the unitive power of transcendent love. You see, the ego, the dualist in us, it is a habit that we have of seeing ourselves over and against someone else. You see, the ego is highly invested in comparing and categorizing and putting cute little labels and putting things in cute little boxes and criticizing from the fourth dimension perspective. I mean, we can be here only because we are not there, right? In this way, the here and the there belongs together. That comes from this. It comes from that, which that means that this and that gives birth to one another. Sounds like a very, very complicated Dr. Seuss novel. So, are you confused? Well, hold on. I will break it all down and what I exactly mean with this and that and everything else. You see, life arises from death and death from life. So that's this and that. When there is no more separation between this and that, one is experiencing fourth dimension and one can see the infinite in all things. I could be separate from you only because at a deeper level, we are joined in something inseparable. So, does that make sense? I bet it's a lot better than the this and that, right? So, when the third dimensional ego pattern steps out of the way, we are We are one with life activities. We are, as we engage with our life's activities, we are no longer thinking about acting or being something outside of the act. I mean, third dimensional ego patterns have been transcended. And so as humans soon shift to upgrade into that fourth density body, what does that even look like? I'm sure that your mind is just going a mile a minute just to try to imagine what that would look like. Well, we will soon see that the full integration into the fourth dimensional consciousness will express as an upgraded dimensional body or fourth density body. A fourth density body is still physical, and it is a light body with a higher vibration and frequency, which makes the physical body less dense and a much lighter. This is basically the resurrection body. It's able to move through walls, but it's still physical to touch. That's why that a lot of people who have had experiences with abductions and everything, they have often stated that these little guys right here have walked through walls and had them float through the walls. So the human body of higher dimensional matter basically represents the primary characteristics of the fourth dimensional body in a fourth dimensional consciousness of Earth. So at the level of the fourth dimensional body, the cells are fully maintained by the light of divine consciousness and are no longer subject to the errors and regeneration within the third dimensional process. So the change to the fourth dimensional body points to a different type of transition of the body to a higher dimension. It's the mind of the cells. It's the supramental consciousness manifested on Earth. You see, the fourth dimensional dimension is like a dream world. It is also called the astral plane. It is the dimension, but still has only one timeline and one reality. It holds like the illusion of duality, the ego, and thus fear is able to still exist in the fourth dimension. But linear time becomes much more fluid. Imagine it as being a stream of energy hosting all events of one particular timeline, the same timeline that is available in the third dimension. We usually visit this plane naturally during the night when we're at dream states. Anything that can be possible is possible. So a mouse can be transformed into a lion. We can fly. We can breathe underwater. We can be many places at the same time and have conversations with the weirdest creatures. We can travel into the past and into the future and experience celestial travelers are also able to access the plane during the day. So this is the plane that the shamans in the ancient civilizations had traveled to access the ability to find out more and to connect to the spiritual realms. Now, these journeys gave them access to the underworld and as well as the upper world. And many of them had used drugs or even plant medicine or a special trance ceremony to even get there. You see, the fourth dimension connects to darkness and light. And this is basically a plane that we can protect us only by applying the energetic universal laws, as there are no human laws or regulations for control. So it's wise to understand what those universal laws are. So exactly what are the fourth dimensional pillars? You see, it's best to understand that the fourth dimension is the straight creation from the second dimension, and the fourth dimension is also what holds the third dimension. So this makes this the four pillars of reality that holds the third dimension within. They are statements that which time and space are related, in which all living beings in different dimensions are expressed, and we must follow in order to accomplish our step-by-step learning. So exactly what are the four pillars of the fourth dimension? The fourth dimensional pillars are also called the process of the universe. It's the process in how the universe works and how we can go through the universe to understand that everything has a step and how everything has has a process. The important thing is to remember is to not achieve a goal. It's to go through a process. So these are the four-dimensional process. It's expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence. Those are the four pillars of every process. We can see it in the third dimension all the time. We have it in the universe, in the aspect of expression. And in the third dimension, we have negative reality within every entity, or rather being. So what I know I have inside, so I have to express itself outside. Expression is where the self-expression expresses itself to expand itself to the outside world, as well as the inside of reality. The first stage and the first process is expression. Then after that, we have the stage of experimentation. The experimentation is when you leave, when you touch, you feel, you see, you hear everything you had expressed, and you will have to leave until that very end of every experimentation, of every process, of everything that you have created. So there's no way to escape the experimentation. The only way to escape from the experimentation is basically in this third stage, which is the stage of the integration. So integration is basically to put everything together. You got all your toys all over the place, and you're putting them together because you have them already sorted out. So understand that the purpose of everything is basically the opposite of expression. Expression goes outside, then you experiment with everything, where integration is to put everything together. So basically, try this analogy, and it's basically the best way to explain all this. Say you were a kid with so much imagination that you can just imagine all kinds of different ways of possibilities. And then you have the possibility to create your own games and characters. You create all these castles and characters, you create these games around these toys, and you're just playing, in this big room with all of them. Then suddenly the experimentation process starts. And this is like a big, huge mess. Then you have to figure out how to put them all together. Then you got to go to the process of integration, where you put them all together and you're like, how do I organize this room to basically understand every game I did? What did I learn from all these games that I had even played? So the process of integration is when the mother says to the child, you have to organize this room. So that is kind of what the stage where we're all at right now in the third dimension on Earth at this time. So we must understand that we have played with reality since about, I would guess, 10,000 years or so. We were playing with reality with things that we had no idea what to do. We were just doing stuff, having not a clue. Now we have to organize all this and put all of them together to basically understand why we have to leave this 10,000 years of mess. So it's like Mother Earth is calling us and saying that you have to organize this room. So that is where we are at now in the process of integration. And once you achieve integration, you will see that everything that you have done, everything that you have expressed, everything that you have created, and everything that you have played with all of it, and say that this is all my creation. And then you go to the fourth stage, which is transcendence. Transcendence is basically knowing that all of this is not mine. I didn't create this. It doesn't belong to me. I am free from that, and that free from me. So then you have to go to another stage of reality to basically transcend everything that you have created, just to let it go. So transcendence is to basically understand the whole process and to go for another level of consciousness, to basically express a new reality. The four pillars of reality are basically the four ways in which the circle of life has to be done. In the third dimension, the four ways in the circle of life is being born, to grow, to reproduce, and then death. So the fourth cycle of the process is death, and that is transcendence. The first cycle is birth, which is basically the expression. You are born to express your life. You start to breathe, to see, to express all the organs to the outer world and into the inner world. Then you have to grow, a process of learning to see what hurts you, what makes you happy, what to feel every emotion and to feel every relationship, to basically understand your your role in the world, or to basically study. Then it's to the process of reproduction. Reproduction is basically the process where you put all that you have learned all together and give it to another being or another entity. You see the product of all that you have learned, and then you pass it down to your son or daughter. So this is basically the integration of this process. When you realize that the purpose of your life, not only biologically, but also in a project, that you have something to do, a goal in your life, and that you have to achieve that which you see. It's basically the process of integration. When you wind up realizing why you have even started this, why you went to this particular school, why you have this particular family, when you answer every why in your life, it's basically a process of integration. You realize the process of everything. And when you do realize all that, you then experience death. This process is known as transcendence, which is death. Everyone wants in this third dimension to be in fear of death, to avoid it at all costs. But death is actually a gift of the universe, if it may surprise you. It's a gift to the souls and the spirits to basically be free of our creation. Death is not something for the universe. It's a gift. It's freedom from what you have created. With death, if you die because of time and you don't die because of consciousness, so you are engaged in this role for this circle of life in which you have to be born again, grow again, reproduce, and then die again. It's called the samsara, the wheel of life. It's also important to understand that you cannot leave the third dimension until you have experienced death with consciousness. So I'm sorry for some of you that this is basically an uncomfortable subject to discuss, but it's something that you must understand. With death in consciousness, it's not to die in the body, it's to transcend and to go beyond the body. So what happens is that you leave the memory of everyone. So transcendence is basically to be alive, but to be split all over, to be split from all the people that know you. With transcendence, it's a process in where you live in a way in everything that you have lived, and you are free from everything that you have created and the goals that you have achieved. A lot of people wind up experiencing this process when they start going through ascension. When you have lived in the third dimension in every possible way, in every possible experience that you have, you will basically transform every karma into dharma. So you can become a teacher, even a master. However, I must tell you that being a master and a teacher is that you don't teach in a way that you may exactly think. They show with experience. They are basically in coherence. They don't have to explain anything. They just have to be. And when they are just giving this information to others. So as we have enlightenment, the plant also has this enlightenment, as the planet also has these four stages, to which is the most ancient symbol that means that the expression that we call spring goes into expression, summer goes into experimentation, autumn into integration, and winter, as you guess it, would be transcendence. So it's exactly the same type of 4 stages we go through. This is what I meant when I said that we see these 4 pillars all the time in the third dimension. So the planet winds up aligning itself every spring within its movement of itself as it circles the sun. So if you think about it, the planet also lives its process like humans do in their life. The Native Americans and the ancient symbols, they wound up showing the process, um, and that both, that basically both planets they inhabit go through. Let me go ahead and draw that real quick. So don't judge my drawing. So the Native American symbol kind of looks like this. This is basically showing that the circle of, with the cross. And within that means the sun. And then you got the 4 stages, which is also a way that you can see time. Every culture in history of humanity has this knowledge, and the only way that you can attach and unite the 4 stages is through time and space. So this is why for many cultures around the world that ceremonies are basically held in these specific dates and in the planet, because there were this cross in which time and space are connected. So this is why for cultures from around the world, they knew if they connected to those 4 seasons, they were aligned with the consciousness of the planet and hold the whole process of time and space themselves. So the seasons like the solstice and the equinox, and had much more meaning than farming, and our ancestors knew it. It was for us to basically align with consciousness of the planet, and as we are expressions of her. If we put all those times together to live just in one spot, that basically it's of enlightenment. That has the whole process of the 4th dimension in just one life. This is why every enlightened being is also put in front of a sphere, of a circle, a sun, or even a cross. So, so this is why in Christianity that the cross is so important. It's not because Jesus died on the cross, it's because he represented the sun in every time and every space. But see, enlightenment is not because someone accomplished the whole process within the 3rd dimension, not the whole, and not even in the whole universe. This is in an ancient thought that says that you have to give away the fruit of your will. You seeded a plant, you watered the plant, you saw the plant grow, you saw the flowers, and you saw the fruit, and then this fruit doesn't belong to you. So why do you accomplish seeding just one tree when the next expression you could be seeding a whole forest? So advanced consciousness means more responsibility. Transcendence of every process of the 4 states of this time and space is to go up, 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 up in evolution. So it's called up because heaven is up, the earth in which is below, and consciousness is of high vibration. So what happens if we are in low vibration? Well, low vibration is living, like an entity that is trying to survive on this planet, that has a low vibration, a low consciousness, like most people do, trying to survive every month by working and paying all these bills. We have created a process in our life in which we are trying to survive the process. So this is basically of low vibration. So living in a high vibration, you don't really have to survive, because there is only one truth in this life, that you're going to die. So if you're going to die, you really don't have to make an effort to survive, right? I am sure you're thinking, what a more morbid concept to even consider. I mean, think about it for a moment. If we live in fear, thinking that we are going to die, if we do this or that, we restrict ourselves from living our life and accomplishing what we are set out to do. However, if we take that fear completely out of the equation and accepting the truth that yes, eventually I'm going to die, so what? That is when we actually live and do what we are set in this life to do. Look, look what is going around us currently. We are seeing everyone in fear and giving up things in our life due to that fear that a biological bug is going to completely wipe us out. You will have to eventually leave. So when you realize that the process of transcendence is a process of a new creation of yourself, then you are free from survival. And now you're able to just leave and go up into the spiritual of evolution. So what about life in the fourth dimension? Well, the fourth dimension is where time and space is relative, where you realize that everything that you have lived has also been lived in every dimension possible. So you have so many universes in which you're trying to understand and to live this reality in any perspective. So the fourth dimension is something that kind of blends the time and space so you could go and see the possibilities in every decision that you have made in your life, every step that you gave in your life, and you can see the result that is possible of what you will do and also what you have to come, what you have come. So when you leave the third dimension through death, the moment you leave your vessel, you're visiting the fourth dimension where you see your whole life review instantly. This is where you're at until you transcend and go into the light and what has been often mentioned. However, if you choose not to transcend and remain on earth due to the attachments, you will be within the fourth dimension, earthbound spirits. I'm sure you heard of the term. Anytime a spirit wishes to transcend, they are able to do so as one is never stuck. What makes one believe they are trapped is due to the attachments in their third dimensional life. So in the fourth dimension, as a human or any being coming from the third dimension, in which they are the ones that can see your past, see your future, and create your reality. So when you go to the fourth dimension, because you're free from the concept of survival, as you know you're never going to die, you're just going to transform yourself. You're in the fourth dimension in which you see yourself going through time and space. So you see every one of those circles of life that you call the four statements or the four pillars of reality, which is the process. The four pillars of reality is basically the goal, the only goal in the universe has. It's so basically you leave every possibility in every time and every space. So that is why for the ancient people and any beings or in any other planet, we don't see time as a prison in which we are in a cage that we can't get out of. We see time and space like a way to move like a car or an airplane. We see it as a way to go from one spot to another. So when you're in the third dimension, you are conditioned by space. So the way that you move in the third dimension as through space, if you were to go, let's say, to the moon or to Mars, you will have to actually move yourself, your whole body, and go there by a vehicle like a shuttlecraft. But when you're in the fourth dimension, you just basically fold time and space where you're already there. You're like here and you here and you here all at the same time. It's because you can travel through time. That's why in the fourth dimension, nobody uses their body. Everyone just uses time as a way to travel. So this process of the fourth dimension in which there's a lot of things, where there's a lot of things to live, and it's also the reality where our subconscious lives. At the moment of the third dimension had been created, the consciousness splits in three. You got the consciousness, the unconsciousness, and then you got the subconsciousness. We also have the three statements within in three dimensions. So in the fourth dimension, you are able to go through your subconscious. So you can see the whole patterns that have created you in the third dimension. So really, it's basically an easier way and place that you can see your whole story and try to understand your whole story. The one that created you and the one that you're going to create. The universe creates the split of the second dimension by polarity that creates the fourth dimension. So we have the four statements of the universe, which will be the process of time, which the third dimension lives. This process has to move like a wheel, and that you can see it different in different realities all the time. You have to express reality, then you have to experience reality, then you have to integrate reality, then you have to transcend reality. So in transcendence, you wind up moving just a little forward each time, where you live one perspective, and then maybe in your next life, you will be born as a different way of the same reality. That is why maybe if you were a service to others in this life, trying to solve problems, then the next life you'll have the opposite. It's so you can see other opportunities of that reality. So that makes you the being that you see every choice and opportunity from this circle. It's going to basically every circle that's going to create, living every perspective in one reality, eventually creating that sphere. That is why the wisest beings look like spheres, like the sun, like Gaia being Earth, or are the basically the wisest beings and any other planet along the way. We are Earth. Earth has created us as the way in which we can think and do and act by itself. So we are an expression of this planet, being created by this planet all the time to express, because it has all these perspectives that create the sphere of time and space. So this is why the fourth dimension helps create the third dimension, and the understanding in how this process, our process of evolution, works together. So I hope all this makes sense and what to look forward to when it comes to the fourth dimension and the whole aspect of evolution and our place in it and where we're at and where we're headed to. So I'm really happy that you had stopped by, and I hope you could take this wisdom and be able to help or to be able to understand what it's all about and the four pillars of evolution. So thank you for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe down below so you can see more great lessons on different dimensions, because we're going to be doing dimensions all the way to at least the ninth dimension and talking about the different aspects and the different, statements, and as well as the laws within these dimensions. So I appreciate you stopping by, and I will see you on my next video.